When Emily decided to marry Daniel, her family had their doubts. Daniel was polite and respectful, but he came from a small town far away from their polished, urban life. Emily's father, Mr. Whitmore, a stern and traditional man, had always dreamed that his daughter would marry someone from a wealthy, influential family. The first time Daniel visited their home, he arrived 5 minutes early, holding a bouquet of fresh lilies, Mrs. Whitmore's favorite flowers. He greeted everyone with a warm smile, and although he was nervous, he spoke with sincerity. Still, Mr. Whitmore remained unconvinced, watching Daniel closely over dinner, asking difficult questions about his career, his ambitions, and his plans for their future. Daniel answered every question honestly. He didn't promise mansions or luxury cars, only hard work, loyalty, and love for Emily. "I may not have riches to offer," Daniel said humbly, "but I can promise to stand by her side through every storm and every sunshine." Mrs. Whitmore smiled gently, but Mr. Whitmore's face stayed unreadable. Months passed. The wedding was small but beautiful. Daniel moved into the city with Emily and began building their life together. He worked long hours as a teacher, while Emily pursued her dreams in art. Times were not always easy. Bills piled up, dreams seemed slow to come true, but Daniel never let Emily feel alone or unloved. On weekends, Daniel would visit the Whitmores, helping with repairs around the house, bringing small, thoughtful gifts, and sharing stories that made Mrs. Whitmore laugh like a young girl again. Little by little, even Mr. Whitmore began to soften. He noticed the way Daniel treated Emily, not with grand gestures, but with quiet, everyday kindness, holding her hand during walks, leaving little notes of encouragement, celebrating her smallest achievements. One rainy afternoon, Mr. Whitmore found himself sitting with Daniel in the living room, fixing an old clock that hadn't worked in years. As they worked side by side, something shifted between them, not through words, but through a shared respect for patience, effort, and silent dedication. Finally, one evening, as Daniel prepared to leave after another family dinner, Mr. Whitmore cleared his throat. "Daniel," he said, his voice gruff but steady, "I was wrong about you." Daniel froze, surprised. "You are more than good enough for my daughter," Mr. Whitmore continued. "You're exactly what we needed in this family. Someone who reminds us that love isn't measured in wealth, but in loyalty and heart." Daniel's eyes shimmered and he nodded with humble gratitude. From that day on, Daniel wasn't just the Whitmore's son-in-law. He was their son, by choice, by love, and by the strength of his unwavering spirit. When Emily decided to marry Daniel, her family had their doubts. Daniel was polite and respectful, but he came from a small town far away from their polished urban life. Emily's father, Mr. Whitmore, a stern and traditional man, had always dreamed that his daughter would marry someone from a wealthy, influential family. To him, Daniel seemed too simple, too ordinary. The first time Daniel visited their home, he arrived 5 minutes early, dressed neatly in a navy blue blazer and holding a bouquet of fresh lilies, Mrs. Whitmore's favorite flowers. His hands trembled slightly as he handed them over, but his smile was warm and genuine. During dinner, the conversation was tense. Mr. Whitmore questioned Daniel about everything: his career, his financial plans, his family background. Each answer Daniel gave was honest, grounded not in grandeur, but in sincerity. "I may not have riches to offer," Daniel said humbly, "but I promise you this: Emily will always be loved, respected, and cherished." Mrs. Whitmore's heart softened, but her husband's expression remained cold, almost dismissive. After dinner, as Daniel helped clear the table, Mr. Whitmore pulled Emily aside. "You deserve more," he whispered. "Are you sure this is the life you want?" Emily, with tears in her eyes, nodded firmly. "He may not have everything, Daddy, but he has the one thing that matters most: love." Their wedding, a few months later, was a simple ceremony in a blooming garden. There were no grand chandeliers, no golden carriages, only laughter, teary smiles, and vows whispered under the open sky. Daniel and Emily moved into a modest apartment in the city. Life wasn't easy. Daniel worked long hours as a teacher, sometimes tutoring children in the evenings to make ends meet, while Emily tried to establish herself as an artist. They saved every penny, dreamed together, and supported each other during the difficult days. Every Sunday, without fail, Daniel and Emily visited the Whitmores. While Emily chatted with her mother about recipes and paintings, Daniel offered to help Mr. Whitmore with chores, fixing the leaky faucet, repainting the garden fence, even repairing Mrs. Whitmore's broken piano.